The camera's working. Yeah, it's charged up. Everything is good. Yes. Yeah. Oh, don't say too much. Oh, it's on. Oh.
We're on the air.
I didn't know.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Avrum Kowalsky. I want to thank you all for coming and giving me this opportunity to address you. Tonight, I'm going to cover an issue that troubled me for many, many years without a solution, and we'll see what I was able to come up with. The topic of this evening's lecture, or shir, whatever we'd like, is the consequences of casting out a Jew. And the focus of this, of course, is this week's Parsha, Parshas Emor. The Torah tells us, and I'll just say it in Hebrew, it's in source 1, Vayetze ben Isha Yisraelis, v'hu ben Ish Mitzri b'soch b'nei Yisrael, and a man, the son of a Jewish woman, and he is the son of a man who is a Mitzri, an Egyptian. He went out amongst the children of Israel, and he engaged in a fight, Vayinatzu b'machaneh, and he got into a fight. Ben ha-Yisraelis, this son of a Jewish woman, the Ish Yisraeli, and a Jewish man. Vayiko ben ha-Isha Yisraelis es Hashem, and the son of the Jewish woman cursed God. Vayaviu also l'fnei Moshe, and they brought him before Moshe Rabbeinu. V'shem imo, and the name of his mother was Shlomis bas Divri lamate Don. His mother's name was Shlomit, the daughter of Divri from the tribe of Dan. Vayinichu b'mishmor b'farish lahem al pi Hashem, and they put him they incarcerated him until they would know what his punishment was from God. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu was going to seek the counsel of Hashem to find out what would be the appropriate punishment for this blasphemer. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, the Torah goes on to say, and this is in source 1 and 2. Daber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, Hotzeas ha-makala lemechutz lamachana, take out the blasphemer to the edge of the camp. V'samchu kol hashomim es yedeim al rosho, and let all those who heard him blaspheme God's name place their hands over his head. Rugamu also kol ha'eda, and stone him to death. Vayotziu es ha-makalel, and so they did. They took out the makalel to the edge of the camp. Vayirgamu also Evan, they stoned him. Ubnei Yisrael also kasher tzivah Hashem es Moshe, and the children of Israel did everything that Hashem commanded to Moshe. That's a very brief description of what happens. There's a blasphemer. Well, first, there's a Jewish woman who has a son by an Egyptian man. She consorted with an Egyptian, and she bore a boy, a young man. He grew up to be a young man. The Ramban goes out of his way to tell us that he was absolutely Jewish because his mother was Jewish. And our tradition and halacha is that we pass Jewishness on by the mother and tribal affiliation by the father. So if a person is born to a Jewish mother, he or she is Jewish. As to which tribe they belong to, that depends on the father.
That's before Torah too? Or?
That's before Torah. That's in the time of this story. And the Ramban says it's before Torah too, but this story already is after the Torah. This is in Vayikra. The Torah was given in Shemos, so we're post Torah. There's an issue of patrilineal descent before the Torah. That's true. There was patrilineal descent before the Torah, but now there's matrilineal descent after the Torah, but also there is an aspect of patrilineal descent to determine the tribe from which the person comes. Now, this is very cryptic. Why did this man go out? Where did he go out from? What is happening here? So, the Medrash tells us, the Safra actually tells us in Parshas Emor, and it fleshes in the story, and this is what the this is what the Safra, which is one of the Madrashei Halacha, tell us as follows. And that's in source 3. Vayetze ben Isha Yisraelis, and this man, the son of a Jewish woman, went out. Says the Safra, or asks the Safra, Minayin Yotza. Where did he go out from? Where did he go out from? Where is he going out? Says the Safra, Mi Beistino Shel Moshe. He emerged from the court of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Beit Din of Moshe Rabbeinu. Sheba lital oholo b'toch machne Dan. He came and wanted to set up his tent in the midst of the camp of Dan. You know, the tribes camp, 12 separate camps, and each tribe had its own camp, and he wanted to pitch his tent in the camp of Dan. Omru lo mati v'chalita b'soch matei Dan. They said, what is the purpose of your setting up your tent in the midst of the tribe of Dan? Omar lahem, he said to them, Mi benos Dan ani. My mother is from the daughters of Dan, and I want to associate and pitch my tent in the tribe of Dan. Omru lo, they said to him, Hakosav omer ish al diglo ba'osos l'bedei avosa. Each man to the flag, meaning to his camp, but it goes l'beis avotam. It goes by the father. It goes by patrilineal descent. You are not a member of the tribe of Dan. Your mother came from Dan, but your father is not from Dan. Your father is an Egyptian. He demanded a trial before Moshe Rabbeinu, a hearing. And he went out. Moshe Rabbeinu passed judgment that the tribe of Dan was right. He had no right to pitch his tent amongst the tribe of Dan because he was not a descendant patrilineally from anyone in the tribe of Dan, and therefore he could not keep his tent there.
Was there a separate area he could have
Right? So he goes out and he curses God. That's what happens. Now, what you just asked is what bothered me. This Jew was a product of an illicit relationship between an Egyptian male, and a Jewish woman. By the way, the Gemara tells us that this was the sole illicit consort that took place while the Jews were in Mitzrayim. And that's an amazing statistic. If you know, we say that in the merit of 4 things the Jewish people were redeemed from Egypt. One of them is that there was no promiscuity, that the Jewish women did not sell their bodies, in a sense, to the Egyptians in order to obtain any favorable treatment. They were pure and they kept themselves to themselves, and they did not consort with the Egyptians. This, says the Gemara, is the sole case of an illegal relationship, and we're not sure from the Gemara if the woman was raped or not raped, but basically this was the only instance in which this happened. So here's this young man. He's grown up together with his mother's tribesmen. Obviously he was an infant, and ultimately he becomes an adult. When he becomes an adult, he wants to have his own family, his own tent, and he pitches his tent among his mother's family. And his mother's family tells him, no, remove your tent. Why would they say no? They said no because they were afraid that if he kept his tent among the tribe of Dan, when they would get to the land of Israel, and they would divide the land would be divided amongst the tribes, and then within each tribe it was divided amongst the clans, the Beis Avotam. He would then demand a piece of land. He would say, I grew up with the tribe of Dan, I had my tent with the tribe of Dan, I want a piece of land in the tribe of Dan.
Where are you supposed to go? You have 12 tribes. If he doesn't belong,
We're getting there. This is what bothered me, I would say, for 10 years. To permit him to share, they will diminish our portion in the land of Israel. Hence, we cannot tolerate his presence in our camp. That's what they say. This young man of Egyptian Jewish descent responded that he too he's a full-fledged Jew. Where is he supposed to go? If he can't go to the tribe of Dan, he can't go to Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zebulun. He can't go anywhere. Where's he going to go? So he said, I can't abide by this decision. I demand a hearing before Moshe Rabbeinu. And what happens? Lo and behold, Moshe Rabbeinu says the tribe of Dan is right. That is the halacha. The halacha is there is only patrilineal descent to attribute you to a tribe. You had to, your father or grandfather, you had to be patrilineally associated with that tribe. You cannot determine your tribe by dint of your mother's affiliation with the tribe. Now this story always troubled me, especially in view of the Talmudic statement that this was the only instance. And so it bothered me, just reading this Rashi, and it's in the Rashi, I quoted you from the Safra. It bothered me for years, and then it bothered me even more. Because in Chumash Bamidbar, there's a very interesting exchange between Yisro and Moshe Rabbeinu. If you take a look at source 4, it says, Vayomer Moshe l'chove ben Ru'uel ha-Medini, Midyoni, Chosei Moshe. And Moshe Rabbeinu said to Yisro, to Jethro, his father-in-law, he said, Nosim anachnu al mokom asher omar Hashem oso etein lachem. We are about to embark on our final stage of our trip. We're going into the land of Israel. This is before the sin of the spies. We're going into the land of Israel. L'cha itonu, come with us, v'hitavnu lach, and we will be good to you. Ki Hashem diber tov al Yisrael, for God speaks well for Israel. In other words, God is about to give us the holy land of Israel. We're about to cross into the land, and if we cross into the land, we're going to engage enemies. We need you to come. You'll be like a scout. You'll give us information on the various people we're going to face. You know this land well. You know its population. We would like you to accompany us. Vayomer elav lo elech, and Yisro says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I don't want to go. Ki im el artzi ve'el moladati elech. Notice what he says. Ki im el artzi, but to my homeland, ve'el moladati, and to my birthplace I will go. What does this ring a bell? What happens when Hashem tells Abraham, Lech lecha mi artzecha u'mi moladatecha u'mi beis avicha. Leave your land, leave your birthplace, and leave your father's home. And Yisro parallels that in reverse. Ki im el artzi, I want to go to my land. Ve'el moladati, and I want to go to my birthplace. Vayomer, and then Moshe responds again and says to him, Al no tazov osanu, do not abandon us. Ki al kein yodata chanosenu b'midbar, you know about our trips and our encampments in the midbar. V'yisolanu le'einayim, you'll be our eyes, you'll be our scout. V'haya ki telech imanu, and it will be if you go with us. V'haya hatov hahu, and it'll be that good, a specific good, unmentioned in the words of Moshe. But we'll see, the Ramban and the Meforshim will explain to us what's happening here. V'haya hatov hahu, asher yetiv Hashem imanu v'hitavnu lach, and that good that God will do to us, we will share with you. We will be good to you. Take a look in number 5. The Ramban elaborates on this dialogue and discussion between Moshe Rabbeinu and Yisro. I'll read it and I'll translate it. Hine Moshe chile pona. Moshe begged from him loleches imohem, to accompany the Jewish people in their crossing over, in their growing into the land of Israel. V'omar lo stam ve'hitavnu lach. The first time he says to Yisro, we'll be good to you. Come along with us. We'll be good to you. Who chashav? How did Yisro understand? How did he interpret these words, and we, meaning the Jewish people, will be good to you? What does that mean? We, the Jewish people, will be good to you, Yisro. How did Yisro understand that? Who chashav sheyitnu lo min hashalal? He thought that what Moshe was telling him is that they would share from the booty, from the loot. When they would defeat the 31 kings, there would be lots of booty. Chesed, there'd be silver, v'zohav, and gold, v'godim, and clothing, v'tzon, and sheep, v'bakar, and cattle. V'lo tiyelo nachla b'tocham. But Yisro understood that to mean, I will get from the personal property, gold, silver, cattle, but I won't get a piece of land. I won't get any land, because I am not Jewish. V'al kain lo hoya chafetz, and therefore Yisro did not want to go. V'ona, and what did he say? He responded, Ki yamil artzi. I want to go to my land. I want to have some real estate. I want to own land. I want to go back home to my land. V'el moladati, and to my birthplace. Ki shom li nachla. There I have an inheritance. I have land. V'nechasim, and I have assets. V'kavod, and I have honor. I have dignity. If I go with you, and notwithstanding the fact that you'll give me gold and silver, I will be landless. Without land, I will have no dignity. And so I want to have land. Yes?
The Levites don't get land, right? So,
Good.
I mean,
Hold that thought till the end.
Moshe was a Levite.
That's right.
You know, as a Kohen.
That's
so
right.
So anyone that doesn't have a tribe should go live with the Levites.
Okay, so hold that thought till the end. Oz Omar lo Moshe, then Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, Al na tazov otanu. Please do not leave us. Ki midatacha hamidbar tiyalanu le'inayim. From your knowledge of the desert, your knowledge of the people where we're going, you will be our scout, our eyes. B'kibush ha'aratzos, as we conquer the lands. V'toreinu haderech hashenala ba, you'll tell us what's the best routes to take inside the land when we go to battle. U'mikol ha'tov hu asher yetiv Hashem lanu leitiv lo. And for all of the good that God will bestow upon us, we will share with you. Remez, this is an indication. Lo seislo achuzo ba'oretz. Moshe Rabbeinu said to Yisro, we will give you a portion in the land of Israel. Be'eretz tova, bischaro al tircho be'ezraso asher yazrein b'kibush haaretz. For helping us, we will give you land. So now, what really bothered me, for Yisro, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to find a solution. Moshe Rabbeinu said, we will give you land. And what actually happens is, Doshna Sheba Yericho, Doshen, which was a suburb of Yericho, was given to Bnei Keni, to the children of Yisro, as an achuzah, and that's where they settled. In fact is, when Shaul goes to fight Amalek, you know, the famous episode where he leaves the king alive and he loses his throne because of that. But anyway, when Shaul goes to attack the Amalek, he sends messengers to the family of Yisro, the descendants of Yisro, and he says, "Hibadlu mitocha Amaleki, separate yourselves from the Amaleki, because we're going to fight the Amaleki. We're going to attack Amalek." And so they were there in the region. They were there in the land of Israel, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu told Yisro. And there is a difference of opinion as to whether Yisro stayed or whether Yisro left. But certainly Yisro came back. The ones who say that he left to get the rest of his family or the rest of his clan and bring them to, into the encampment of Israel as they marched to the land of Israel. And the ones who say that he stayed, he must have brought others with him and he just stayed. Okay, that's a difference of opinion. So now we have a situation where Moshe was able to find an accommodation for his father-in-law, but yet for this Jewish man, not a convert, a full-fledged Jew, there was no accommodation made. And he was, in a sense, felt robbed of his dignity, and he went out and he cursed God. Yes?
Is that the halacha by Gary? They have a chuzah?
No, they have no achuzah.
So what was unique? It was unique because it came into the land the first time it came in? Or?
No, because it was unique because Moshe Rabbeinu was promising him sort of a reward for helping out with the scouting and with the lay of the land and the nature of the people that they were going to encounter. And that's what the Ramban is trying to distinguish between Yisro and between this this Ben Isha Yisraelis, the son of this Jewish woman, without bringing the question to the fore. He's hinting that, okay, Yisro is being rewarded for something that he did, whereas this Jewish young man, he didn't do anything to deserve any extraordinary treatment. But it always bothered me that why couldn't they find an accommodation for this one little young man? Does it trouble anybody here?
Where did Moshe get the land for Yitro?
He got it from some little extra suburb that they found near Yericho, which is close to the border. He found a place. Maybe he asked that tribe to give up some of its land for an accommodation, whatever. So this troubled me for a long time, and of course the problem was enhanced when I read, the Ramban by Yisro. And you know what even more amazing to me? Is none of the Mefarshim asked this question. This is a question that apparently is something that troubles modern people. But if for some reason the medieval commentators, nor the Talmud, nobody seems to be bothered by this problem as why they could not find an accommodation. In other words, the strict law was applied, and I agree that that is the strict law, that it's patrilineal descent for inheritance. But it just, it rips at your heart a little bit, or it tugs at your heart. As somebody trying to get in? It tugs at your heart, and yes?
What I'm curious about is that when Moshe Rabbeinu was talking about the application of the strict law, why he didn't actually solve the problem?
That's exactly the point. He just imposed the strict law, found no solution for this young man, and in his rage at being robbed of his dignity, the young man blasphemed God's name. And there was no solution found. That's
What happens
the
when
point.
Mashiach comes and the tribes get the land now, and you have converts that don't have tribes?
Well, first of all, when Mashiach comes, the land of Israel is going to be much more expansive than it ever was. And there's going to be...
It still has to be divided.
Now it's going to be divided amongst all the people. There's an interesting...
Not just the Jews.
It'll be divided amongst those
Where the
who
Egyptians
who
come from?
obtain
Arab
salvation.
The
What?
guy's father, was he Arab Rab or what?
Who, Yisro's father?
No, the young guy.
The young guy was a full-fledged Jew. He's not Arab, bro.
No, his father. It was Egyptian.
His father stayed in Egypt.
So she was pregnant when she left Egypt.
That's right. Or maybe she already born the child. I don't know. He may have already been born. But he's Jewish. Halachically, he's Jewish. You want
But I thought that was Torah, is when the woman gave the Judaism to the kids after Torah.
He was born after the Torah was given. Yeah, he was born after the Torah was given. That's what they say. The Gemara says that he was Horaso Shalo B'Kedusha V'Leidaso B'Kedusha. He was conceived before and he was born after. You're right.
Okay.
That's what the Torah says. And the Ramban goes on to say he was a full-fledged Jew, and the Torah calls him a Ben Isha Yisraelis, the son of a Jewish woman. It's stressing the fact that he's Jewish. Or it would have just said that he was a Mitzri, part of the Erev Rav. So this troubled me, and again, as I said to you, it really bothers me that none of the Mefarshim asked this question. Nobody. I looked at every single Mefarsh that I could get my hands on, and I never found an answer to this question, or I never found the question asked, which made it even more difficult to understand. Sometimes when you have a kasha, and you find that somebody asked the question, you feel relieved. At least you know you're not the only idiot out there, and that somebody else asked this question. But when you have a question that you think is a good, legitimate question, and nobody asked the question, that's very bewildering. Yes?
I would have set him up with one of the no smart.
Okay. See that? You would have been a shotgun right there on the spot. Okay. Okay. So here again we see that for a convert, if Yisro was a convert, Moshe Rabbeinu went out of his way to find an accommodation, yet for this Jewish young man, there is no accommodation. And then, years after this question bothered me, I came across a very interesting thing in Sefer Shoftim. How many of you know the story of Pesel Micha? Anybody know it? Okay, so we're going to learn that story tonight. It's in Shoftim. We're going to start with Perek Yud Zayin, 17, chapter 17. I didn't produce this in the source sheets because it goes on for pages. Okay? But I will read it to you as we go through it. There was a man by Yish Mihar Ephraim. I'm going to basically translate it so you know. There was a man from Mount Ephraim, and his name was Micah. Vayomer le'imo, I'll skip a little bit here, I'll just paraphrase it. He tells his mother there's a 1,000 pieces of silver. I stole your silver. He tells his mother, you had 1,000 pieces of silver. I stole it from you, mama. Nice little Jewish boy. And she says, don't worry, I forgive you. And he gives it back to her, and she takes it, and she brings it to a silversmith, and they fashion this little icon. Vatomri imo hagdesh ishtachshtias hakesed l'Hashem. I sanctify this silver to God, and they take it from the house and they bring it to the silversmith, and they make this icon. Vayasehu pesel, and they make it into an image, a pesel u'masecha, an icon. Vahiva beis Micha, and this icon, this little statuette, stays in the house of Micha. And then Micha decides to take this statue and make a house of God. And so he makes a house of God, and he puts the statue in it, and he makes for himself priestly vestments, and he appoints one of his sons to be a priest to this statue which he makes in a house of God. And in these days, Ein Melech Yisrael, this is in the period of the Shoftim, there's no king in Israel enforcing the law. Ish hayashar be'einav yaseh. Everybody can do what they want. The rule of law was not prevalent at that time. Okay, so here's what happens. He steals the money, he gives it back to his mother. His mother makes a little icon for him. She gets him a job, she makes him a temple, and there he is. He's the priest. One of his sons is the priest, and he's serving this icon in this temple. Vayhi nar mi Beis Lechem Yehuda. There's a young man from Beit Lechem, which is in the tribe of Yehuda. B'mishpachas Yehuda, he's from the family of Yehuda. V'hu Levi, and he's a Levite. How can that possibly be? How can he be Mishpachas Yehuda v'hu Levi? The Gemara asks this question. And the Gemara says that his mother's family was from Yehuda and his father was a Levi. So, as far as being patrilineal descent, he was Jewish because his mother was from the tribe of Yehuda, but patrilineally he was a Levite, not a member of the tribe of Yehuda. He was a Levite because his father was a Levi. V'hu Gorsham, and he lived with his mother's family. Vayelech ha'ish me'ya'ir mi Beis Lechem Yehuda, and the man leaves Beit Lechem in the tribe from the holdings of Yehuda. Lagur ba'asher asher yimtza, to go live wherever he may find, which means that he had no destination. He just left, and now he's out there searching for his fortune. He's going to be looking for a place to settle. Obviously, he left because he felt uncomfortable for some reason living with his mother's family, and he went without any particular destination, just to go find some place. Vayovo Har Ephraim. Guess where he ends up? He ends up in Har Ephraim, and he comes to the house of Micha. Now, the Gemara tells us that Micha was extremely hospitable. He was a person that had an open house. And people, we'll see from the story, people would just come and visit and stay in Micha's house for various periods of time. And this young man from the from the family of Yehuda, his mother's from Yehuda, and he's a Levite, and he has no place to go, so he wanders around and he ends up in Micha's house. Vayomelo Micha. And Micha says to him, where are you coming from? When did you make Aliyah? No. He says, where are you coming from? Vayomer Elah. He said, Levi Anochi, I am a Levite. Mi Beis Lechem Yehuda, but I come from Bethlehem. V'anochi holech lagur v'asher yimtza, and I am going to wander until I find a place to live. I have no particular destination. And so Micha tells him, stay with me, shvoi madi, and you will be a prominent person here. You'll be an Av, you'll be like a head of a household, and you'll be the Kohen. I'm going to make you the Kohen to my little statue in my temple. I'll give you 10 pieces of silver for so many days. And I'll give you vestments and clothes, and your sustenance, room and board, and you will stay with me. And he decides to stay there, And the Nar, this young man, becomes like one of Micha's sons, and Micha fulfills his pledge to him, and the Nar becomes the Kohen, he becomes the priest in the base of Micha, in the house of Micha, in this temple. And Micha, of course, cannot get over his good fortune, because until now he used one of his sons as a priest, but now he has somebody from the tribe of Levi, and this Levite will now become his priest. He's overjoyed, and again it tells us in those days there was no king in Israel, so nobody was enforcing the law. And then the Torah tells us then the Navi tells us a very amazing statement. Ubayomim hohem, and in that same time, as this young man was settling in the house of Micha and was becoming the priest to this icon that was in his temple, in that same period of time, Shevet Hadoni Mivakish Lo Nachlo Lo Sheves, the tribe of Dan was seeking its inheritance in order to dwell in it. Kilo noflo lo ahayom havu mitoch b'shiftei Yisrael minachla. For amongst all the tribes of Israel, there's 12, Shevet Dan for some reason did not find its place. In other words, Shevet Dan could not settle in the land that was allotted to it by Yehoshua ben Nun. It could not find peace in its own land. Why? Because Shevet Dan was right near the Pelishtim, right on the border with the Pelishtim. If you know the last judge in the book of Judges, which was the chapter right before we began, the chapter before the story of the icon or the idol of Micha, the very last story is the story of Samson of Shimshon HaGibor. He was from Dan, and Dan was being more attacked constantly by the Pelishtim, and he went out to fight the Pelishtim single-handedly. And you know the whole story. He falls in love with Delilah, and she betrays him. Anyway, he destroys the temple in Azza, and because of what he did, the fear of Israel was in the hearts of the Pelishtim, and the land was quiet for 20 years. But he was the last of the Shoftim in the book of Judges. So anyway, for this period of time, I don't know, 100, 200 years, the tribe of Dan was constantly defending itself against the Pelishtim, and they had no tranquility, and they had no peace, and they couldn't settle, and they were constantly being attacked, and they were constantly having to defend themselves. And as you know, during the period of the Judges, rarely, the only one time that all the Jews gathered together was when they had a civil war because of Pelegish Begiva. But I'm not going to teach you the book of Judges here now. The entire time in the book of Judges, whenever there would be a war, it would always be local, and a tribe or two would get together and fight the enemy, but never did all of Israel harness its collective power and unite to fight. Okay, so now the Torah tells us, the Navi tells us, there's this icon that's set up in the house of Micha. There's a young Levite who is now the priest, and at the same time, the tribe of Dan is beside itself because it cannot rest peacefully in its land. And so the tribe of Dan decides to send a 5-man delegation, a scouting delegation, a committee, to find B'nai Chayil, men of valor, Mitzoro mi-Eshtoel, from Tzora and Eshtoel, where is exactly where Shimshon came from, L'ragel es-Oretz, to spy out the land of Israel, U'lahokra, and to inquire, and to say, let's go look over the land of Israel and find a place where we can transfer our tribe to, because we can't live here on the border with the Pelishtim. It is too warlike. Vayovo Har Ephraim. So as they go up north, they come to Mount Ephraim, which is north. Ad Beis Micha, lo and behold, they come to this little Motel 6, which Micha is running, and they go to see Micha. Hema im Beis Micha v'hemu hikiris kol hanar halevi. They hear him singing. You know, the Levites sang, and he's singing in his temple, and they go to see what's going on. And they say to him, "How did you get here? What are you doing here? Malachopo, what's going on?" V'yomer aleim, and he tells them the whole story. I was from the tribe of Yehuda. I wasn't from the tribe, but I lived with that tribe. I didn't feel comfortable there. I came wandering to find my place in the world, and hello and behold, Micha took me in, and he's hired me, and he pays me, and he cares for me, and I am his priest. So they said to him, Sha'alno be'elokim, go ask God. If you're a priest, go ask God. V'neida, and let us know, tell us, will our mission be successful? We are now scouting for land in which to transfer our tribe to this new piece of land. We're looking for this land. Will we be successful in this mission? And the Kohen tells them, go in peace, and God will direct you. You will be successful. And they go, and they come to a city called Laish. Laish was a Canaanite city which had not been conquered by the Jews, by Yehoshua ben Nun. You know that Yehoshua ben Nun defeated the 31 Canaanite kings when he came into the land of Israel. For 7 years they fought. He fought for 7 years liberating the land. They killed the 31 kings. He captured or killed them all. But he didn't finish the job. He left pockets of Canaanites and Amorites and Hittites. He left pockets of Canaanite nations in possession of the land of Israel. In fact, Yerushalayim he didn't capture. So it was only captured later on by David HaMelech. So there were pockets. And they came to this city called Laish, which is all the way up north. And they saw it was a Canaanite city. It was and they saw that it was peaceful and tranquil because the Jews had stopped, conquering land. There was peace in the land. And they said, hey, this is right for the taking. They have no army. They don't seem to have an army. They don't seem to be fortified. They don't seem to be under any threat. They seem to be totally at peace. And so they return back down south to, let's call it Gush Katif area. They go down south all the way to the border of Gaza. They tell their tribesmen, let us go up and let us conquer Laish. And so the tribe of Dan sends a 600-man war party, and they go up north. And as they're going north, they pass through the house of Micha. Okay. Okay. And they go to Har Ephraim, and they too, the 600-man war party, arrives at the house of Micha, and they see this little priest, and they see him dressed in his priestly garments, and they see the icon, the little statue. And you know what they do? They turn aside from their mission. They go into the house of the temple. They steal the icon. They take the priest and they say to him, come on, join with us. We're going further north, and you will be our priest, and we will have this little icon that your mother made, or you made, or you had fashioned. And he says to them, wait a minute, this belongs to Micha. They said to him, what would you rather do? Would you rather be a priest to this little Motel 6, or you want to be a priest to a whole tribe? We're a whole tribe here of the tribe of Dan. And he says, okay, sounds good. Probably pay me more. And he throws in with them. And they leave and they take the priest and they take this little icon. Okay, then what happens? He joins up with this party from the tribe of Dan. They turn away, they go and they leave, and they take whatever they took from the house of Micha, and they go and they leave. Micha sees what's happening. He starts running after them. He calls out to the tribe of Dan, to the people of Dan. They turn around and they face Micha, and they say to him, what are you screaming about? He says, you took my God, you took my little idol, you took my priest. And they said to him, if you keep pestering us, we're going to kill you. Al tishma kocha. We don't want to hear your voice anymore. Pen yifgu b'chem anoshim. Maybe we will strike you. We are bitter people. We are now sort of vagabonds. We are dispossessed from our land in a sense. We're now traveling to find a new place to locate our tribe. Don't tamper or don't argue with us, because we are at the end of our rope and we'll kill you. And so the tribe of Dan goes on its way, and they take the idol and they take the little priest with them. And this little priest, by the way, they get to the city of Laish. They burn it to the ground, and they rebuild it, and guess what they name it? Dan. They name the city Dan. And when we say from Dan to Beersheba, from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, that's Dan. That is Laish. That's all the way up north. Where was the tribe of Dan? Down by Gaza. They lost their land in Gaza. They couldn't occupy it. They couldn't hold it in peace. And so they transferred the whole tribe up to Dan. And from Dan to Beersheba became a statement of describing the northern boundary of Israel and the southern boundary of Israel. So what do we see happening here? We see that the tribe of Dan, that couldn't give one man one plot of land, loses its entire share in the land of Israel. That is the consequence of not accommodating one single Jew. They couldn't find in their hearts a room to give him a little plot of land. The Navi lets us know that they lose their nachla in the land of Israel. And they are forced to move all the way up north. But that's not the end of the story. The Navi tells us now also, Vayikru Shem Ha'ir Dan. They call the name of their new city Dan. B'Shem Dan Avim, and they name it after Dan, the forefather of their tribe. Asher Yulad Yisrael, who was born to Jacob, to Israel. Ulam Laish Shem Ha'ir Rishona. Laish was originally its name, but now that they conquered it and they burnt it and they rebuilt it, they named the city Dan. Vayokimu lahem b'nei Dan es ha'pesel. And they established, the B'nai Dan established this pesel, this idol, image, icon. V'Yonasan ben Gershon ben Menashe, hu ubona. Now the Navi is going to identify who is this Levite. Who is this young Levite man that became the priest for the tribe of Dan? Well, first it tells us his name was Yonasan ben Gershon ben Menashe. Jonathan, the son of Gershon, the son of Menashe. Hu ubanav, he and his progeny, he and his descendants. Hoyu kohanim l'shevet Dan, they were priests in the tribe of Dan. Ad yom galos haaretz, until the 10 tribes were taken into exile. Vayusimu lahem es pesel micha asher asa, and they placed there the icon in Dan, the icon of Michal, the idol of Micha. Asher also kol yimei hayos beis Elokim b'Shilo. For the entire time that the Mishkan stood in Shiloh, 369 years, Pesel Micha stood in Dan and was worshipped in Dan. In fact, if you learned Malachim, you know that Yerovam ben Nevat, who rebelled against the monarchy of the house of Yehuda, of the house of David, and split off the 10 tribes from Binyamin and Yehuda. David HaMelech's son Shlomo, at the end of his life, Yerovam became a rebel. He broke off and split the kingdom in the time of Rechavam, the grandson of David, the son of Shlomo. The 10 tribes split off from the tribe of Yehuda and Binyamin, set up their own monarchy, and Yerovam ben Nevat made 2 temples. One temple in Dan, because there already existed a temple of Pesel Micha, so he made a golden calf and put it up in Dan, and he made a golden calf and he put it in Beit El, because he wanted to cut off the flow of the people to Yerushalayim. So the people up north would be able to go to Dan, and the people in the middle of the country would be able to go to Beit El, which was just north of Yerushalayim. So he would cut off people from going to Yerushalayim. By the way, he set up soldiers and sentries on the road so that people could not make the pilgrimage to the Beis HaMikdash, and he offered these alternative temples. But one of the reasons he made the temple in Dan was because of Pesel Micha was already established in Dan. The idol of Micha was already in Dan. And he just added, he built a much larger temple, and of course he added the golden calf up in Dan. He had 2 golden calves. Okay. So, we've already seen the consequence of what happens to the family or the tribe of Dan. They lose their portion of the land of Israel and are forced to relocate all the way up north. By the way, the fact that they were all the way up north led to them being taken into exile first. They were the first. The Navi tells us that when the Assyrians began to conquer the kingdom of Israel, the first thing that fell were the tribes that stayed on the east bank of the Jordan, and then they came in through Dan down, and they took them into exile first. So they ended up really going into exile first, but they initially lost their portion in the land of Israel. Now, who was this Levite? So you don't have the text from the Tanakh in front of you, but let me tell you what it is. It says Yonasan ben Gershom ben Menashe. How do you spell Menashe? Mem, Nun, Shin, He. How do you spell Moshe? Mem, Shin, He. If you take out the Nun, then this Yonasan ben Gershom ben Moshe, he's the grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu. And I can show it to you here if you want to just gather around for a moment. In the text of the Tanakh, the Nun of Menashe is suspended above the line. So it really reads Ben, Mem, Shin, He, and the Nun is like thrust there, but it's suspended above the line. If you take a look in
You
the
have it on source 8 of the sheets.
So I have it on source 8, but I couldn't figure out how to suspend it above the line, so I just emboldened it and made it bigger. But in the text of the Navi, where in source 8, Yonasan ben Gershon ben Menashe, that Nun, visualize that Nun as being suspended above the line, like hanging above the line. Because the Gemara says it was really Moshe Rabbeinu. It says Rashi on that Gemara. Actually, Rashi says Ben Menashe. I think I have that in the sources. Mibnei kvodo shel Moshe kosuv Nun. The author of Shoftim, who was Shmuel Hanavi, by the way, took this Nun and raised it above the line, put the Nun in there in the first place, and suspended it above the line. L'shano says Hashem, to change the name from Moshe to Menashe. V'nichtav tuluya, and it's written suspended above the line. Lomar, to tell us, Shelo hoya Menashe ela Moshe. It wasn't really Menashe, it was Moshe. It's Moshe Rabbeinu's grandson. So Moshe Rabbeinu that could also find a solution for this Ben Ish Yisraelis, could not find a solution for him. His grandson is twined with the tribe of Dan for 369 years, serving as priests in this idolatrous temple, and that's the consequences. Even to the great Moshe Rabbeinu, the Navi is telling us that he suffered a consequence for the fact that he was unable to find any accommodation for that young man, and therefore he's joined in for 369. His fate and the fate of his children and grandchildren is joined with the fate of Dan. Dan loses its whole portion in the land, and Moshe Rabbeinu's grandchildren become priests to this idol that they stole and set up in Dan. And so while nobody addresses the issue of what or why Moshe Rabbeinu didn't find a solution, the Navi lets us know that there were dire consequences to the fact that Dan didn't find an accommodation, and neither did Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's the end of the lecture.
All right, so it seems very clear all along we've been talking about a Levite without a name, and then comes the text. It says, Jonathan, that Gershom ben Menashe is not a Levite.
Well, it could have been some Menashe. It didn't have to be Moshe. It didn't, that's identifying us as Moshe. You're right, but it is not Menashe. It's Moshe.
It's very strange that Moshe didn't have an answer to this.
I'm telling you, I don't know why. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't know why, but there's a consequence. There's a consequence. And there's no other link between the Shevet Dan and Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the link between Moshe Rabbeinu and Shevet Dan? Not this, what else?
And Micha had the temple.
Micha had a temple, but he lost it.
But he was the one.
He was the one that stole the silver from his mother.
Right.
When he finally, I guess he had pangs of remorse, and he tells his mother, "I stole the silver from you." His mother says, "Don't worry, my son. I intended to always make a little icon out of this money, out of this silver, and now I'm going to go to the silversmith. I'm going to take the money, the silver that you returned to me. I'm going to have it smelted down and made into this image, into this little statue, and I'm going to give it to you, and you can have your own little temple." And he did, until the tribe of Dan, on its way up north, passed by, stole it, and took the priest with them, and established it up in Dan.
Priest was made a priest by
Micha.
Right, just like this.
Just like this. And by the way, when Yerovam ben Nevat, who was the first king that split off the kingdom of Israel from the kingdom of Yehuda, Yerovam ben Nevat made 2 temples, one in Dan, one in Beitel. So, because he wanted to stem the flow of people coming to the Beis Hamikdash. He said, if you can have 2 kingdoms, you can have 2 temples. And if you're going to have 2 temples, you might as well have 3 temples to make it easier for the people to have access. They don't have to travel all the way from Dan down to Jerusalem or to Yerushalayim. They don't even have to travel all the way from Dan to Beitel, where I made my other temple. I'll make you a temple up north, and I'll tell you what else I'm going to do. I'm going to let you have little altars all over the land, and I'll tell you what else I'm going to do for you, children of Israel. I'm going to tell you that all of you are priests, and everybody can get up and you offer the sacrifice. You don't have to be a priest from the tribe of Aaron, from the family of Aaron HaKohen. Everyone can be a priest. And he decides to dedicate his temple. This is all in Kings 1. He decides to dedicate his temple. You know what he does to dedicate his temple? He picks the holiday of Sukkot in which to dedicate his temple. You know why he picked that holiday? That's when Shlomo HaMelech dedicated the Beis Hamikdash. But he didn't want it to fall out on Sukkot, the same as the traditional Sukkot, so he made a leap year. He made a leap year in Tishrei, and he added a month, right before, in Elul actually. He made a leap year, which you're not allowed to do, and he made another month, so he added another month. And now he's having it in the 8th month, which Tishrei is the 7th month. So in Yerushalayim, Shlomo and all of Israel, well, Shlomo was dead already. Rechavam and all of Israel that were, abided by the Malchus Yehuda, they celebrated Sukkot in the 7th month. He dedicated his temple in the 8th month. And he decided to offer the first sacrifice to show that you did not have to be a priest. And he gets up in his temple, and he's about to offer the sacrifice, the inaugural sacrifice, dedicating his temple in Beitel, and in walks a prophet. And the Torah, and the Navi does not identify the name. The Gemara identifies him as Ido HaNavi. A Navi walks in, and walks right in, and everybody's there. All his officers are there, and I'm sure there's a musical accompaniment, and there's the sacrifices are all ready. People are volunteering to be priests and to go up, but the king goes first. And this prophet walks in and looks right at the Mizbeach, and he says, "Mizbeach, Mizbeach." He ignores the whole multitude of people, speaks directly to the Mizbeach, and he says, "On you will be burnt the bones of all those who are offering sacrifices in this temple." And he says, and an indication that I speak the true word of Hashem, that this altar will now split, and the ashes, because there was fire already on the altar for the wood that was burning, the ashes will scatter. And sure enough, the altar splits, the ashes scatter, and Yerovam ben Nevat says, "Seize that man!" And his hand becomes paralyzed. He can't retrieve his hand. And he begs the Navi to pray to Hashem so that he can retrieve his hand. And the Navi does. But in other words, this is what Yerovam ben Nevat said. I'm going to make this not egalitarian, but I'm going to make it open to all of Israel. Anybody who wants to offer a sacrifice can offer a sacrifice. Well, you can just imagine when he's dedicating his temple, this great event takes place, and boom, it's destroyed. There's no celebration. Everybody's scared to death. What's going on?
The theme you spoke about tonight reminds me of two other, perhaps many other incidents, dealing with, let's see, for example, Esau could have married Leah, or it could have been a whole different situation with Israel, if that would have happened, and also Rabbi Shimon Barachi was his student.
Right, he pushed him with two hands.
And not bringing close or pushing away.
He pushed with both hands.
Calamity.
Right.
I don't know.
It's interesting, there's an interesting thing about Esau. I mean, I must say this. You know, Yaakov's daughter Dinah gets raped. You're all familiar with that story. It happens right after Yaakov meets up with Esau. And of course, Yaakov sends all these gifts to Esau, and he splits his machne, and he splits his family into two camps, and they all come and they all bow down to Esau, and they're all begging Esau for forgiveness, or Yaakov's begging Esau for forgiveness. Ulaya chapro es panav, maybe he will forgive me, etc. And the Mefarshim say, actually, the Medrash says that Yaakov took Dinah and put her in a box, so that Esau would not see Dinah, because he thought if Esau would see Dinah, he'd want to marry her. Now this Dinah, obviously, is a most charismatic, probably most beautiful, most powerful person. She is able to have the entire Shechem, the city of Shechem, circumcise themselves. You know how hard it is for pagans to circumcise themselves? They're not 8 days old now, fellas. They are adults, and they're circumcising themselves because they want Dinah to be their queen, to be the princess, to marry the king's son. So you can imagine what kind of charisma, what kind of power Dinah had. And so the Medrash says not only was Shechem affected, but if Dinah had been outside of this box and approached Esau, and Esau would have seen her, he would have married her. He would have taken her. Says the Torah Temimah. So why didn't Yaakov allow Dinah to encounter Esau and let Dinah, who's obviously so powerful, she would have reformed Esau? Says the Torah Temimah, Yaakov did not want Esau to be reformed. It's a very brazen Torah Temimah, and because of that, the Ger Rebbe will not allow the Torah Temimah Perish on the Chumash to be in the Beis Medrash in Ger, because of that Torah Temimah. That's the legend. But anyway, you see that there are people that have this power. Well, I don't know how I got into that. Oh, because you mentioned this. Yeshua ben Parachia, the story is about Jesus, supposedly. I'm not sure who exactly, but it was another charismatic figure. And he was somewhat of a rebel, and he was raising issues that Chachamim thought were endangering the Jewish people because of his advocacy of revolt. You know, there was other revolts in that time too. Rabbi Akiva led a revolt, the Bar Kokhba revolt. There was a revolt in the Second Temple in the time of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So the Jews were afraid that this person, whoever he might have been, some attribute him to be Jesus, that he was so charismatic and he was advocating revolt, he was endangering the Jewish people, and so they drove him out of the Beis Medrash. And Rabbi Yeshua ben Parachia was his Rebbe. And the Gemara says that if Rabbi Yeshua ben Parachia would have pushed him away with his left hand and drawn him closer with his right hand, he could have machzeh him l'mutav, he could have returned him to good, but instead he was so fearful of the consequences of this man's actions, he pushed him out with both hands. And that's the rest of the, you know, as Steve Harvey would say, and you know the rest of the story. So,
who would offer his daughter to Esau, or let Yeshu speaks in his shul, or something?
listen, Jewish history has proven that what was done...
Who's better than Moshe Rabbeinu?
History has proven that what was done was right. Yaakov did not let Dinah marry Esau. Yeshua ben Parachia did drive away, let's say it was Jesus, I don't know if it was or it wasn't. And let's say we see here what Moshe Rabbeinu, the consequences of what happened in his time.
The Zohar says that
It just tells you how precious every Jew is and how careful one must be.
let his daughter marry this Ben Israelite. His mother was saying Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu because he killed his father by the Zohar. The father was the Mitzri that Moshe killed.
Right.
They turned him into Pharaoh because they thought they will be in trouble. So
doesn't
it's
Avram turn him into
very.
Yeah,
It's not a simple case.
Not a simple case. Nothing simple. But you have to find accommodations for all Jews. That's the final lesson of this story. Don't be so quick to throw somebody out of the camp. Don't be so quick to distance ourselves from other Jews. They may have some differences with us. We have differences with them. But we are all part of Am Yisrael. We need to work together and find ways of uniting all of us. And that's really the bottom line.
Amen.
The unity of Israel is paramount. That's the message, really. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
Well,